first.
Good evening and welcome to the council meeting
Oh,
of June.
no, we're not on yet. You gotta look up in the
Okay.
corner of the TV. I'm just putting it on.
Okay. I keep looking at the blank screen here, thinking that it's all going to come to me.
Now you're live.
All right, thank you. Good evening and welcome to the council meeting of June 28, 2021. This meeting is being held in chambers and we are observing COVID-19 protocols. You will note that members of council are spaced around the room to ensure 6 feet separation. The meeting is being live streamed on Facebook Live. There's no public attendance permitted due to the ministerial order. The most up-to-date meeting package is on the Town of Kentville website. The public may send questions directly to the recording secretary's email at jwest@kentville.ca. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting packages? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? I will remind members of council that we are in decision-making mode and we should be mindful of our decision-making wheel. We have committed to making balanced and respectful decisions and adhering to our code of conduct. This council, through policy, has adopted Robert's rules as our rules of order and our parliamentary procedure. And as the chair of the meeting, it is my responsibility to use those orders to ensure we get the business of the town done. We will be voting by electronic means for all votes except administrative. Our queuing system cannot be used due to social distancing. If you wish to speak on a matter, please raise your hand. You will be called upon in order. Please speak clearly as we are depending on the microphone at the front of the room. Are there any conflict of interest issues we should be aware of before this meeting commences?
Yes, I have one, 5-1, I guess.
Thank you. Councillor Zabian has declared a conflict of interest with item 5A. Thank you. Now, I would like to take this opportunity to share some great news with all. This morning, the town of Kentville received $1.4 million from the feds and $1.2 million from provincial funding for our active transportation plan. MP Cody Blois and Minister Keith Irving were on hand to represent both levels of government, and the town of Kentville has committed $978,000 to this multi-year project. So good news story all around. CAO Trope, could you please take the roll call?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. All of council is present and accounted for this evening.
Thank you. CAO, we have been provided with a proposed agenda. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, Mayor Snow, thank you. I do have one item for in camera. I have a land sale, purchase and sale that needs to go before.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any further additions or deletions?
Could I add just a Valley Waste update to in camera?
Certainly.
Thank you.
So that will be item 9B. Anything further? If I could have a motion to accept the additions and deletions. So moved. Thank you. Councillor Huntley and Deputy Mayor for the second. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. You've been provided with a copy of the council meeting minutes for May 31st, 2021 council meeting. Are there any changes to these minutes? If not, they will be approved as distributed. If yes, the recording secretary will annotate the minutes in red, and annotated minutes will be added to the electronic meeting file as approved. No changes. Thank you. Moving on. So our first item of business is with regards to second reading for our alternate voting bylaw. So we have a recommendation. The first reading of the alternate voting bylaw was approved at the May 31st, 2021 council meeting. After consideration of the resolution, council is prepared to move forward with second reading. And the motion is that council approve second reading of the alternate voting bylaw. Somebody can move that, please.
So moved.
Deputy Mayor, thank you. In a second. Councillor Huntley, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approves second reading of the alternate voting bylaw. Is there any discussion on this matter? There being no discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve second reading of the alternate voting bylaw. And we will be voting using our electronic devices, and please ensure that you point them at the recording secretary. It's kind of like a taser. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. So it didn't take too much to retrain us. All right, we do have recommendations arising from our CAC meeting on June 14th, and they will be presented and moved by Councillor Gerard. Councillor Gerard, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. At June 14, 2021 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, Mayor Snow reviewed the sale and proposed development of the Robinson property by owner Mr. Andrew Zadie. The owner requested to extend one of the terms of development to September 30th, 2021. Mr. Zadie gave a 10-minute presentation to council. Following this presentation, CAO Troke framed the following request to council. Council Advisory Committee recommends that council approve to extend the 15% construction completion deadline to September 30th, 2021 as requested.
Thank you. So under normal circumstances, Councillor Zabian would leave the horseshoe, but due to the fact that we're social distancing, he has to walk by people, and it will not maintain our positions. So he is at the table, but he is now Mr. Andrew Zabian as opposed to Councillor Zabian. Thank you. All right, could I have a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Huntley, thank you. So it has been moved and seconded that council approve the extension of the 15% construction completion date deadline to the 30th of September as requested by Mike's Clothing. Is there any discussion on this? CAO, I understand we have a new request from the developer. Could you walk us through this request, please?
Absolutely. And in fact, this was part of briefly the discussion at CAC, where the extension of the 15% deadline should be carried over with the extension of the completion deadline as well. So where it sits right now is there would be a completion deadline right now of March 31st, 2022. And so in conversation with the developer, and it would be my recommendation to council to extend the completion deadline, essentially the last deadline, to June 30th, 2022, therefore matching the extension that was given on the 15% deadline. So in essence, the existing motion would stand with the addition of an adjustment to the March 31st, 2022 completion being moved to June 30th, 2022.
Thank you, CAO. So if the mover and seconder are amiable to the amendment to this motion, we can move forward with the motion as council approve the extension of 15% construction completion deadline to 30th of September 2021 and completion of construction to June 30th of 2022 as requested by Mike's Clothing. If our mover and seconder are not amiable to this, we will vote on an amendment. Mover?
I'm with.
Okay, and thank you. All right.
Worship, if I
Yes,
could, if the motion could read that direct the CAO to enter into an amending agreement with the developer to make those changes.
okay. So if the council approved the extension of 15% construction completion deadline to 30th of 2021 and complete construction to June 30th, 2022 as requested by Mike's Clothing, and further, council directs the CAO to engage in an amending agreement. I almost got them all. Okay, we're cooking with gas now. So we have,
I guess, what I want to make clear is that these amendments don't take effect unless until the CAO enters into the amending agreement.
okay,
So as long as that intent's on the record, if that's what council's adopting, ideally the motion would read to direct the CAO to enter into an amending agreement reflecting those two changes in the dates.
okay, so those should be first, is what you're telling
Yes.
me. Okay, I think I can manage this. Okay, let me read this. So the council to direct the CAO to engage in an amending agreement with Mike's Clothing for an extension of the 15% construction completion deadline to the 30th of September 2021 and complete construction to 30th of June 2022. Does that work?
Yes.
Jennifer, did you?
So through your worship to the CAO distributed an amending agreement. And so what I anticipated was that council was going to adopt that amending agreement with the one change to the completion date. And so the reason I'm raising this is I just want to make it clear as to what the CAO expects. If the CAO expects that that amending agreement is what he's been asked by council to enter into, then you may want that to be specifically identified.
Have a motion on the screen for,
I see that, but I think we're trashing that motion and going with something completely new.
I'm just looking for the CAO's guidance on what he anticipates.
Right, and I believe, sorry, Mayor. Basically, the agreement, as it sits in your package with the adjustments to the date is what I'm taking as a direction from council to proceed with the developer, owner of Mike's.
So then we may as well just write a new motion. Directing you to,
probably be easier just to get withdraw and then. do-
yeah,
I withdraw.
okay, thank you. So Jennifer, you've got that in your minutes? Yeah. So we are directing the CAO to execute this amending agreement,
With the to adjust the dates.
execute this amending agreement to adjust the dates. Do I need to specify the dates again?
We
The
probably-
amending agreement specifies September 30th, 2021 date, just need to specify the completion date. So I think
Okay,
it doesn't address.
adjust the completion date to adjust dates and further the construction completion date. June 30th, 2022. Okay, Jennifer, for your edification, direct the CAO to execute the amending agreement to adjust the dates and further the construction completion date to June 30th, 2022. Is that clear? Does that provide us with all the direction that we need? To execute the amending agreement to adjust the dates and further.
Could you repeat the and further section?
And further the construction completion date to June 30th, 2022. And Mike's Clothing is named in the agreement, so it doesn't need to be in the motion.
That the motion?
So that council direct the CAO to execute the amending agreement and to adjust the dates and further the construction completion date to June 30th, 2022. So we're adjusting the dates as per this agreement, and then we're changing one of the dates that's in this agreement that's in our package, and that's the construction completion date. Is that clear? Does that work? All right, now I need a mover.
So moved.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Huntley, thank you. So it has been moved and seconded that council direct the CAO to execute the amending agreement to adjust the dates and further the construction completion date to June 30th, 2022. Is there any further discussion on this matter? No further discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to direct the CAO to execute the amending agreement to adjust the dates and further the construction completion date to June 30th, 2022. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. All right, Councilor Gerard, back to you.
See better. Here we go. Excuse me. At the June 14, 2021 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, CAO Trope reviewed the updated Kings Remo bylaw, which will replace the existing town bylaws. Council Advisory Committee recommends that council give first reading to the Kings Remo bylaw to town council to June 28, 2021, and further that council give second reading to the bylaw on July 26, 2021. And further that all other emergency management bylaws be rescinded.
Thank you.
So your worship, just before you seek a seconder, just two things. Should just be clear, this is first reading the bylaw, so really the motion is simply the council give first reading of the bylaw. And that's all that need to be said because the bylaw deals with revoking prior bylaws.
Okay. Even if there's several of them?
Yes,
Okay. So we'll have that amendment. That's good with you?
This time.
And if I could have a seconder for that, please?
I'll second it
Thank you.
back, right?
Yes, you are, certainly. Okay, it has been moved and seconded that council approve first reading of the Kings Remo bylaw and further that council give second reading to the Kings Remo bylaw to town council on the 26th of July, 2021. Yes,
that second part's not part of the motion. It will be at the next council meeting. The motion is simply to give first reading to this bylaw.
okay. Is there any discussion on this motion? Other than the solicitor? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve first reading of the Kings Remo bylaw.
Second? Oh. You already have second. Apologies.
It's the heat. It's the heat. Voting is now open.
Oh, dear. Sure. Come on.
Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to our next one.
At the June 14, 2021 meeting of Council Advisory Committee, CAO Trope reviewed the town's involvement in the Western Regional Housing Authority Board and a request to extend the term of the existing representative. Council Advisory Committee recommends that council extend the term of Council Representative Ashley Hancock on the Western Regional Housing Authority Board. I so move.
Thank you. And a seconder?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the extension of Kentville Representative Ashley Hancock on the board of the Western Regional Housing Authority by one term for 2 years. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the extension of Kentville Representative Ashley Hancock on the board of the Western Regional Housing Authority by one term for 2 years. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. All right, and that takes care of all of our recommendations and reports. And now moving on to our council reports. So Councilor Gerard, you're up first.
June 16th, Valley Waste Regional Management. I will talk about that in camera. June 21st, met with Dan on the process and the new police chief. Looking at the police chief. June 17th, Kentville Joint Fire Services budget is on par, 16%. The target date for truck replacement, truck 11, is still for December 2021. Camp Aldershot, they're still in negotiations for us, sorry, not us, but Kentville Volunteer Fire Department providing services up there. Some renovations have or will be taking place. They're turning the bar into a shower area, and the funds, I don't know whether you folks see it, but you'll drive by people's houses and they'll have the firefighters 50/50. And this is where the funds to do that renovation are. And that is my report.
Thank you very much. Counselor Huntley.
Thank you. June 7th, we had a meeting on the diversity committee and we reviewed the diversity work plan update. And we also had an introduction of an inclusive communities intern. June 14th, CAC meeting, directors reports, land discussions, bylaw discussions. June 16th, Kings Point to Point Transit. We had an AGM meeting, rolled out the new board and introduction of new resident members. We talked about the financial update and the thank you to Dave Brown, who will be retiring. Kings Point to Point, and the introduction of the new manager, Renell Lyons. June 23rd, Kings Transit talked about financials, audit report, and recruitment. And June 24th was the accessibility advisory committee. And we talked about moving forward to what the next plans will be to get a new committee and excitement. And for the town, I took part in the Women of Excellence, the celebration, which was absolutely phenomenal. And to see so much talent in our community is actually inspiring, sure.
And you didn't mention you were one of those women.
No.
Nominations.
And the Festival of Flowers, which I did a walkabout town, and it was so beautiful, right, to see all the flowers. So thank you to everybody who was participating. The conference attendance I took part in at City Nations Place of Americas. It was a 2-day session. It was awesome. So it was learning how to break down the silos between tourism, economic development, and city management in order to foster a dialogue and how we can work together to attract talent, tourism, and investment in our communities. So nobody works in their own department. You know, everybody is rah-rah, we help each other, that sort of thing. But they also allowed us to see into cities, like larger cities. So for example, we always talk about downtown. A lot of people talk about street troll at 5 o'clock, and this will change. And how do we get it there? So they talked about residential living downtown. One large city had a huge waterfall, which drew people to that area 10 o'clock at night. From ice cream shops to everybody was coming out of the financial district to come down and have French fries at the truck, or there was so much activity. And that is what created the sense of ownership for people, not just downtown anymore. Everybody wanted to live in that community. So they talked about it from Pittsburgh to Boston to, of course, everybody's got their own spin. Not everybody's going to have a waterfall, but the amount of green space that's being added for people to have lunch. I absolutely loved the session. And thank you for actually mentioning it to me. I appreciate that. I also took part in a webinar on affordable housing and energy retrofit and a discussion on the cities that are rebuilding for the future to help with our goal of affordable housing. And it talked about cities in Vancouver and Toronto, what they're doing to their large buildings and how much money they're actually investing in it, but what is the savings and how they're actually trying to look after the people, how long it's going to take, how old are the buildings, what type of shape. It was quite an interesting conversation for sure. And excuse me. Then in moving on, I listed as, some of the things that I do just to, it has nothing to do with the committees that I'm on, but I have a lot of learning too in the committees that I am on. So, I did a lot of work with climate change over this past month, developing greenhouse gas emissions inventory and forecast. There was a little bit of strategies, diversity and culture, climate change leadership course, which I'm taking at a university. And, you want to come save the world after you have one of those courses. Mi'kmaq, we are all treaty people, Indigenous First Nations. It was all very educational for myself for sure. And I also asked to take part in the Nova Scotia Public Consultation on Sustainable Development with their goals, to share my voice, to learn what they're talking about, and if there's anything I think that's pertinent, you know. So we've got that correspondence going. And I had correspondence with the Executive Director, Gordon Michael, from Mentoring Plus Strategy, a discussion on the leaving of our Chemical Director, and, you know, what will happen moving forward on that platform, for sure. And last but not least, there were some discussions with residents, you know, the timing of the flowers around town, properties and areas needing some cleanup, visitor center upkeep. Thank you, Dan, for that information. And residential school remains, the 215 children that were found. What can we do to remember? I reached out to Glooskap First Nations office to inquire about a meeting, correspondence with Chief Peters. So just waiting.
Excellent. Thank you.
May I?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Councillor Huntley. Just I had a couple of questions, and it's sort of a segue into what you last mentioned about the residential schools and the findings that have transpired over the last number of weeks. In light of that, and I know that this falls under the purview of the Accessibility Committee, is the renaming of Cornwallis Street. And a number of folks have contacted me just to get a sense of, you know, as I think it's being brought to light, certainly more now, and wondering sort of where that stood and kind of timeframes around it in terms of the committee considering it or incorporating it, I should say.
Sure, yeah. And we talked about it at our accessibility meeting a few days ago. And there's a lot more groups that need to be involved in that work for sure. There was no deadline timeframe to be on that, because with the amount of work, I guess we're looking at help to get from other groups. Everybody's got such deadlines at their meeting. So right now, there is no time set, but we know we need a lot of people involved to do it right. And that's as much as I can tell you right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just have one more question. The course that you did on affordable housing, I'm just wondering, involved with that, was there any, did any municipalities talk about that being incorporated into their strategic plan, and if so, what that looked like?
It was a webinar actually that I did, and they did not talk about it as a strategic plan. They it was more about it was like pilot projects that they were doing. And you know, a lot of the discussion came about a lot of retrofit needing into buildings of 25 years and older. What kind of state are we in right now? How many people do we have? Where are the buildings located? That sort of thing. So I think you'll probably hear more. We'll probably hear more about that as we learn from their pilot projects.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you both. Councillor Maxwell.
I have a question before I start.
Oh, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Councillor Huntley. I didn't realize that our Mentoring Plus person had left. We just hired that person a short time ago. So can you fill us in a little bit more on what's happened there and where we're going from there?
And they don't know right now. And I got an email a couple weeks ago about it. And the lady who we had took another job offer. And right now they're kind of in plans of where we go from here. And I get an email originally, from Gordon, who leads it. And I hear every once in a while from Truro, where their offices are, but other than that, it is absolutely, yeah.
CAO.
But just maybe add on to that, the executive lead on that is trying to set up meetings with me, and I'm fine with that. I'm happy to share the information on that.
Thank you. Okay, I'll give my report now. Of course, last council meeting, May 31st, and last council advisory meeting attended June 14th. May 27th was the accessibility committee meeting. I'll discuss that in a second. And June 1st, we had an Annapolis Valley Trails Coalition update. In town events, on June 19th, I attended the season opening of the Kemple Heritage Center. And it was with the Swirl of the Bagpipes by Ed Coleman that the Heritage Center opened to the public on June the 19th. There are many new artifacts this year, as well as a new display on the sanatorium. The KCA display is still up for those who may have missed it last season, and there have been new additions to the railway room. I encourage everybody here and our staff and of course the public to drop in and see the fine work being done by this volunteer group. The Masonic Garden has also been spruced up, which is nice. Storyboards are in place around the Masonic Garden as well on the other side. And the rescued Kempville crest that used to sit on top of the Recreation Center building, which was at one time the fire hall, has been added to the Heritage Center to the other side of the building. It's been restored and it looks fantastic there. So I would suggest going in to see that. The Accessibility Committee meeting work has been taking place since our acceptance of the accessibility plan. That work consists of press releases, training, partnering with KBC, grant applications, which we've heard we've been successful, very successful in part of that, and many discussions on the impacts this plan will have on everything as we go forward. There are 2 levels of training that are going to take place. One is called Accessibility 101, which is the Rick Hansen Association training, which 2 staff will take part in there, and the Rick Hansen certification training that will include 1 staff member. The cost of the certification is $2,500. The committee is looking for videos expressing personal stories from citizens that experience accessibility issues on a daily basis. So we want to get some really good personal stories out there to the public and really ramp up what needs to be done. To date, 2 videos have been secured already. One has been done by Bernie Zink, and the other has been done by Susan Harvey. And both of those are excellent videos. Many thanks to both of them for getting involved with that. It's interesting for council to note that the town is leading the accessibility charge, and Jerry Post who spoke to us there for a bit last meeting. Jerry Post is forwarding our plan to several federal ministers. So I'm sure that has been a very big deal up there. The Annapolis Valley Trail Coalition update. I want to put the website for our Harvest Moon Trail and others out to you again. And so I have included that in my report as people are starting to move more freely around the province. And so they may want to plan some holidays biking on the trails in Nova Scotia, in particular, our section of the trail, we hope. This will help everyone plan their trips. At the last meeting, we decided an in-person AGM would be preferable to one over Zoom. And so we are planning for early September. Hopefully that will be a safe date. More information will be forthcoming from that and I'll pass it along. The trail supervisor is working away on trail maintenance on the Harvest Moon Trail. Of course, you won't see him on our Kempville section as we do our own trail maintenance. If there are problems on the Kempville section, citizens are please asked to contact our recreation department. Community culture and heritage funding has been applied for, as well as the municipal funding applications. And we did have a presentation from our trail chair, Beth Patilio, at our last meeting. And Beth did a great job outlining the importance of the organization and the municipal partners for the success of the Harvest Moon Trailway and also the Blue Route provincially. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. Questions? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Same as the rest of my colleagues. So last council meeting at CAC, June the 9th, I attended the KBC board meeting where various committees went through their reports around new business. They talked about membership discussion, certainly the mission and purpose and strategic pillars of KBC and also the business engagement discussion. So I think overall, I'm really enjoying sitting in on their board meetings. I'm getting a better depth and scope of where they're at and sort of what they're looking at doing moving forward. They're certainly digging deep into their mission statement and purpose and they really continue to widen their sphere of influence and interaction with and participation within the business community. So hats off to KBC for great work. June 16th was Investment Advisory Committee, where we, as we normally do, review the recommendations and report with our investment advisor, and our balance just north of 14 million. Our year-to-date yields are in the 4.4% range, which is weighted against the balanced income Canadian, of 0.97%. So doing very well. We have a number of investments coming due over the ensuing months, and are therefore anxious to hear back from the minister and deputy minister with the approval for the revised investment policy statement that we submitted a couple of months ago. June 14th was an in-camera regional sewer committee meeting where the item of discussion was the sludging of Lagoon A. June 17th was Joint Fire Service Commission. Essentially what I did in my report is I copy and pasted the minutes from the last meeting. Councillor Gerard, who was the chair of that committee, was in attendance, and I think reviewed the main point there, which was the Camp Aldershot that Kemper Volunteer Fire Department is proposing a flat rate fee made at the beginning of each year, and we're sort of still waiting for some payment to come through, and I think there was engine 11 replacement as well, but for the most part, he covered it off. June 17th was a regional sewer committee. The majority of what we talked about was around the desludging. And so I'm just going to read an announcement that was going out from the municipality of the County of Kings. I'll try and condense it as much as I can. Just basically that to the residents that we're reaching out to update on the circumstances of the regional sewer plant located in New Minas, and specifically with regards to the odor that's been coming from the plant the past couple of months. It's frustrating. We are frustrated too, and certainly thanking people for their understanding as they work to remedy the underlying issues. The municipality and its partners is starting a multi-million-dollar project in early July that will improve the performance and capacity of the regional treatment plant that services from Colebrook to Greenwich. The project will remove accumulated debris and sludge from the primary treatment lagoon, which is the main source of the odor. And it's certainly the work, once it's finished, it's expected to significantly reduce and eliminate the odors that have been pronounced in New Minas area this spring and summer. And those scents have come into Canfield as well, as I'm sure a number of folks have realized that. The prep work is starting the week of June the 28th and will involve trucks and heavy equipment crossing the Harvest Moon Trail at the Jones Road in Minas. And then essentially equipment from across the province and county will be delivered to the treatment plant during the week of July the 5th, next week. And it will, the equipment will take several days to position, rig up, and commission. And then the desludging operations are planned to start around the 10th of July and are expected to take 3 to 4 weeks. This process actually is going to run 24 hours a day, 7 days per week until it's complete, and will be primarily confined to the sewer treatment plant at the gravel pit at the end of Jones Road. And starting June the 28th until mid-August, a number of large volume trucks and heavy equipment will be working in the vicinity, and those are working to basically move the sludge out of there. The loading will be done early in the morning to help reduce the impact to residents. And I'll end this by saying it's unfortunate, but due to the nature of the required work, the unpleasant odor may be more pronounced from the time during the cleanup project. And once the work is complete, the odor is expected to subside. So I'm certain that most of you around here, around the horseshoe, have received calls. I know I have from a number of people, and certainly county councilors have. So if that is going out, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'll just make 2 more comments here. June the 9th, I attended via Zoom the Women of Excellence Awards, and congratulations, Councillor Huntley, on your award. And June the 23rd, I attended the Pride Walk that took place here in Kemptville. It was a great event. It was our first one, and it was very well planned. It was a nice turnout. We stayed within our guidelines of people, and we physically and socially distant. And overall, a great event, and that is my report, unless anybody has any questions about the desludging.
Council Maxwell?
Yeah, I didn't have a question about desludging, but I had a question with regards to KBC. I'm just wondering if their membership now includes local entrepreneurs within the area.
If it includes local
Well, like citizens from Kentville who are running businesses out of their homes, entrepreneurs.
yeah, so it is including home-based businesses as well. KBC does.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. That wasn't usual last time, so just wondering.
No,
I'm
there's.
glad to hear that.
Yeah, they're certainly making, they're making some changes and they're extending the invite to members. Not necessarily in the business park, but they have their own committee being set up now in the business park, and they're trying to work to be sort of a sub of not a sub of KBC, but something similar to what KBC does, specific to the business park.
Well, I'm not talking about the business part, I'm talking about people that
I'm elaborating.
are running out. Okay.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Thank you.
Anything further?
No,
All right then. Council York?
Like everybody else, I attended CAC and the previous council meeting. On the 3rd of June, I attended the first official meeting with the representatives from the County of Kings and the towns of Kentville and Wolfville for the recreation facility feasibility RFP. So that has been created after a bit of back and forth. And the closing dates, I believe, are now middle of July, so middle of this coming month. The Annapolis Valley Regional Library AGM and board meeting was just last week. And in addition to the wonderful things that they're doing, one of their moving through project is the medicine garden behind the Berwick Town Hall and Library location. There are 2 garden plots there. One has the 3 sisters, which is corn, squash, and I forget the other one, I'm sorry. And there's tobacco and sage as well in the medicine garden. So that's been a new project and one of many projects that will be through the moving through project coordination. I attended Police Commission this past Friday. There's some great discussion about the police chief, but also the collision report we went through that as well. It's not in this report because it came out after the deadline, but the KCA PTA has reported that their cafeteria has sold 25,271 meals during the school year. So it's a huge congratulations to the PTA for doing that. It's a big achievement for school cafeterias, especially locally, but across the province. I attended the Pride Walk as well. Wonderful event, lots of families out enjoying the beautiful weather. Thankfully, the postponement was well thought out. And then there was sort of an informal session about affordable and attainable housing that was put together with a couple of municipal councillors from the county and across the province or across the Valley region. And we met with Russ Sancha with the portal and Kelly McGregor as well, and just talking about how we can get the Homeless No More projects moving forward and what we can do at a municipal level to get those sorts of things moving forward. And as well, I attended the We Are All Treaty People webinar, which was hosted by the NSFM, and a fantastic webinar.
Any questions? No? All right, Councillor Zaidi?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. Attended the last council and CAC meeting with everybody here. June 16th was the Investment Advisory Committee, which Deputy Mayor Savage spoke on. On the 16th of June, I attended a vigil at the Drive-In Theater in Cambridge. I was asked to represent Kentville and was joined by MP Cody Blois, Minister Irving, Mayor Zabian of Windsor West Hants, and Deputy Mayor Lutz of the County of Kings. And there was quite a few people there. It was nice to see that. On the 19th, I went to the opening of the Kings Historical Society. Lots of great things to see there. And as Councillor Maxwell said, they've got some great exhibits up. And also on the 23rd, I attended the Pride Walk. And I got to thank the town of Kentville staff for putting that together. They did a great job. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Guess that leaves my report. So as you can see from my report, there was a lot going on with regards to REAP, and that is a regional economic acceleration plan. And economic recovery continues to be ongoing, and there were some new grants coming out from both ACOA and NSBI, and so we expect some more information on that next Thursday, I think is our next meeting. And of course, NSFM board meetings, policy signatures and business of the day. Municipal Finance Corp was the AGM, and of course, board meeting at the same day, and we moved on through that. One of the nice things that I attended last month was the FCM annual conference. And the theme of the conference was forward. And I have to say that it was really well done on Zoom, and they had excellent presenters. The only problem is that they actually did each of the events, the workshops, back to back. So you were signing off of one Zoom and you were trying to sign on to another, and typically it was already started before you got on, but otherwise they were absolutely excellent. I don't know if any of you saw today, Catherine McKenna, one of our members of parliament, has declared that she is not reoffering in the next election. And one of the things that she speaks about is the harassment that she put up with as an MP. And one of the discussions we had, I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is a document called Trolled on the Campaign Trail. And one of the authors was actually a presenter at NSFM. And this document is very powerful. And we actually had another female MP who spoke to us during this. So she is from Toronto. She identifies as Muslim. She's female. She's married with children. You know, and she had all of these criteria, but it was the meanness of people. And it's one of the things that she said was that when she went home or when she went out on the trail, she knew that she had backup. But what was happening was things were being put on social media, and her family didn't have that same level of comfort. So her little children at home see mom leave, knowing that there's been something bad said. And so there's always that sense, and it was such a powerful presentation that was done, and all of these webinars are still available, so I still have access to them if anybody wants to have a look at it. But this document, Trolled on the Campaign Trail, it's very, very powerful. And the examples I've just given have both been women, but there's also men who are being trolled. And it depends on how you identify, and you know, it's the ugliness of it, and I guess the ability to hide behind social media has become a real problem. But anyway, so I found I wasn't going to say this much about this one webinar that I attended, but listening to Catherine McKenna today on CBC, and you know, stating that that's one of the reasons that she's leaving. It's one of those things, and you know, and they kept saying that we want diverse people in politics, and that's so important, because you know, we need to hear everybody's voice, and we need people to see themselves sitting in these seats. So I put my plea out there that you've got 3 years to think about this, and there's all kinds of documentation out there. But you know, these are not bad gigs, and you know, stepping up for things is a possibility, and that you know, when we see that bright light in somebody's eyes, that we really should nurture it, and you know, we should give everyone the opportunity to be part of the answers that we create. So I realize I've gone onto a soapbox as opposed to just doing my council report. As you can see, it's AGM time, and I'm also going to say that AGMs on Zoom can be very, very painful. There's no food. I just, not that I go to the AGMs for the food, but there's a couple of AGMs around the valley that usually have really good food. So anyway, I just put that out there that I can't wait to do AGMs in person again. And that's my report. So now that we have received all of the reports, if we can have someone move to accept the councillor and mayor's reports as presented. Thank you, Councillor Gerard. And Councillor Huntley, I saw your hand. It has been moved and seconded that councillor and mayor reports be accepted as presented. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. We have no new business this evening. We have one piece of correspondence, and my delinquency, I did not put the entire document on the scanner, but the financials are available for Kings Point to Point. So this is their letter. Okay.
We have a public comment from vanlux@gmail.com. Who just wanted us to know that the transit bus stop at the bottom of Duncan and Main Street, the same side as the school, needs attention. Weeds and wild roses are so high, they cover the knees of users waiting to use the bus, and the signage is covered as well.
Okay. CAO is making notes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for sending that in. All right, so this concludes our business. We now have a land matter which must be conducted in a closed session. So we require a motion to go into the closed session to discuss the agenda items. We will not be returning to Facebook Live for completion of the meeting or for adjournment. So if we could have a motion to move into the closed session. Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Maxwell, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council move into the closed session. The question is on adoption of the motion to move into the closed session. All those in favor? Motion, all those opposed? The motion is carried and the time is 6:51.